So good morning, everybody, on this awesome Saturday morning. I really appreciate all you guys being here. Yes, there is soy in the performance line. It's soy lecithin. Okay, so what we are going to do, all right, and I would ask all of you guys to mute yourself, because that is one thing that gets me really grouchy is when I hear background noise. Trying to speak. My team knows that. They're all like nodding their head. That's the one thing that makes me really grouchy. So if you are joining and you're on your phone or whatever, if you could make sure that you mute yourself. Okay, so I wanted to welcome you guys to the call. I'm really excited because what you're going to get out of this call is a little different than the average coach in this network. I am going to put perspectives on things, share you a little bit of behind the scenes of the government, the industry, how why things are the way they are, so that you can answer these questions that come up all the time. I know that there's a ton of people that message me and I start to see the same questions over and over again. And I will tell you, I have created blog posts with all of these answers. So don't feel like if you missed writing something down, because at the end of this call, I'm going to give you my secret vault to all of these explanations, answers, and everything to use at your fingertips so that you can go back and refresh your memory. Okay, so my name is Shay Stanford. I'm a 15-star diamond. I have spoken at Summit twice on Shakeology. I've done 2 national wake-up calls on Shakeology, which are in the vault if you care to go back and listen to those. I came from a pharmaceutical, well, first of all, I have a degree in psychology, but I did pharmaceutical sales for many years. And I will tell you, from the pharmaceutical industry, a lot of drugs get approved that should have never been approved. I know why they get approved. A lot of what I understand about Shakeology, I understand from being trained in pharmaceuticals. So I'm going to share a little bit some of these reasons that you cannot get in the Beachbody FAQ. And as awesome as the Beachbody FAQ is, it's very legal jargon because it's a very slippery slope on what they can say and explain to the network, whereas I can kind of give you layman's terms and go out of boundaries a little bit. I, after having my 3rd child, had ended up doing HCG, and I really wasn't savvy with nutrition or really cared. I figured, you know what, a doctor's endorsing it. HCG is natural. You make it anyway. And I did HCG shots in 2010, really screwed up my hormones. I ended up having a quarter-sized tumor in my breast. It ended up being benign, because I'm not going to make this very long. Long story short, it ended up being benign, but that experience propelled me to really take ownership for what I was putting in my body and health, not looking at quick fix weight loss things, seeing what chemicals do. I ended up going and getting a certification in holistic nutrition, which took me a year. It's about a $5,000 year-long course. Not so much to grow my business, but just to educate myself and elevate my own product knowledge on things that are out there. I was one of the rare coaches that joined Beachbody because of Shakeology. And I'm going to tell you guys, 5-6 years ago, I knew nothing about Shakeology. It's just been a compound effect of finding answers, learning, and applying what I've learned with what I have from my past, with what I learned in school, and kind of pulling it all together. And that is some of the stuff I'm going to share with you guys, which is a little bit different perspective. Okay. So I always like to give the analogy when it comes to learning Shakeology, because there is so much. It's just like getting a new cell phone, guys. You'll get a new cell phone and be completely overwhelmed with all the features this thing can do. And you'll look at the owner's manual and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so much, and just toss it out the window, right? The thing is, Shakeology is the same. It does so many things and there's so many components to it. But really, at the end of the day, you're going to use the same 2 or 3 features. And it's the same as your cell phone. You're going to find what works for you, what feels right to you, what comes off your tongue well, and you'll go with that. So don't get overwhelmed in the details. Just kind of go and take it in. Thank you. Go and take in what I'm going to share and just understand the bigger picture. Worry about verbalizing it and all of that later. Okay, so let's get started. One thing that a lot of people do not realize about health and their state of health, whether they have IBS or migraines or they suffer from arthritis, autism, name a disease, pretty much everything. Everything starts with the health of your gut. And by your gut, I mean your intestines. and how well you absorb nutrients. And I'm going to share with you a couple examples on why. And a lot of people think if they have migraines, they focus on the head. If they have, arthritis, they focus on the bones. Truly, if you start with the health of your gut, someone's not muted. If you start with the health of your gut, hang on, I'm going to go around and try and mute some people. The body will want to heal itself and look to heal itself from that point on. One of the books that it's kind of geeky, but I'm reading, it's called Brain Maker, and it's written by a neurologist, a brain surgeon. And he talks a lot about all these different things that you can do to alleviate and reduce autism and MS and all of these different neurological disorders. And I'm gonna get to that in a little bit, but just take my word for it that everything starts in the gut, because I don't wanna make this call about that. All right, so when it comes to Shakeology, because of the types of probiotics, which I will also touch on, when people say, do I really need to drink Shakeology to lose weight? Here's the thing that Shakeology does and what it does for that gut health. When they drink Shakeology, what happens because of the types of digestive enzymes that are in there, people will drink it, and usually the first 4 or 5 days, they really aren't going to feel that much. But what happens is, imagine for years and years, they've been eating Weight Watchers foods and processed foods and all these chemical foods and taking synthetic vitamins and all of that stuff. Imagine a hose, right? That's your digestive tract. Just kind of like having a lining of ick and gunk and grease and whatever, right? So even when over the years that has built up, that has not broken down. So when they start to drink Shakeology, those digestive enzymes almost kind of go through and clean out that digestive system, and it breaks up all of the stuff that's in there. Pretty gross, right? But that needs to happen. That takes 3 or 4 days for that process to happen. Then after about days 4 or 5, now I guess you could say the pipes are clean. And now that the pipes are clean, all those whole food nutrients that is in Shakeology that's now coming through are getting absorbed. It's no different than an analogy with a dirty pipe, right? So and so that's where that shift happens, where now their body, it's like a sponge. Now it's like your body is sucking up all those nutrients and you're really getting the full benefits of Shakeology. But if they're not drinking it every day, that process isn't going to happen. Or if they have stomach discomfort in days 1 to 5, that's totally normal, because that's the body. It's everything trying to work through and push its way through to clean out the digestive tract. Okay. Now they're able to absorb those nutrients and really get the full benefit of not being nutrient deficient, which you guys learned about in my first video. Now, if they don't do Shakeology, that process doesn't happen. So they could take all the vitamins in the world, eat all the clean food in the world, and it's like shoving a bunch of lettuce and healthy food right down a greasy hose pipe. Nothing is going to get absorbed. And if it doesn't get absorbed, it doesn't matter that you're eating it. If it doesn't get absorbed, it's basically going right through you. And that's where, when people don't drink Shakeology, like in these challenge groups and these customers, if they're not drinking it, they're not truly getting the full effect of absorbing all the healthy foods that they're eating, because everything starts in the gut. And until that process has happened, they're not going to actually get the vitamins and everything they need. Okay. So that's kind of how Shakeology works in the first week. Here's another thing. If people are complaining that they'd have bloating, or maybe their stomach feels really full, a lot of times that has to do with fiber. So the average woman needs 25 grams. The guys need 35 grams. The average person gets about 6 to 7, maybe, a day. Now, then they drink a Shakeology. Here's the double-sided sword with fiber. You need 25 to 35 grams of fiber. The problem is, we've all sat down and ate a bowl of beans, right? How's your stomach feel after that? Awful. It hurts. It's gassy, right? The problem with fiber is, if you are eating 5 to 7 and you jump up to 25, it's going to hurt. Fiber is one of those things you have to slowly move your way up to. Add a little bit more every few days and add a little more to get up to 25. So if you've got customers that are saying, I drank Shakeology 2 or 3 days and I'm bloated, my stomach hurts, it's probably they're not typically every person I have asked, they don't get enough fiber. Now they're adding fiber and they're having that feeling. So that's a really good way to explain to them, just bear with it, drink a lot of water, flush it through, but it's the fiber your body needs. And you can explain exactly the way I explained it to you guys. You've got to work your way up to fiber. And then obviously you can even add, which is an extra sale, the digestive enzymes to get even more fiber. But again, you want to titrate up. You want to work your way up to 25 or 35, depending on a male or female. Do you tell them to move to half? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can tell them that depending on the kind of distance that they're having. But a lot of times that's nothing to do with the Shakeology. It has to do with the actual fiber and what their body is used to. Okay. So that's where a lot of the blow, just say, trust the process. Your body will normalize itself. But those first 4 to 5 days is just your body getting rid of a lot of the crap that wasn't there before. And that is and when you explain it like that to people on why it's so important that they drink Shakeology every day and that they have to be on Shakeology to be in your challenge groups, they'll understand why. Because who cares if they're eating all this healthy food from the 21-day fix if their body's not absorbing any of the nutrients? It's a moot point. Okay. Start with the gut first. Okay. This is what's really interesting with probiotics in Shakeology. So many people have IBS, colitis. They've got all these, digestive disorders, or they just, get upset stomach. Again, everything starts in the gut. What is so important is that you have really good flora. I don't know if you guys have heard the term flora in your gut, but that is basically the gut thriving and growing and doing what it needs to do. When we take antibiotics, it kills that. So if we're sick a lot or whatever, it kind of strips all that flora, which is not good for the ecosystem of your gut. So if you've gut issues, typically you'll go to your doctor and they'll say, take probiotics, right? How many, we see just go take probiotics. So then we go to the grocery store and we buy Activa and, we buy all these probiotic yogurts. Here's the problem. And I learned this from a gastrointestinal doctor that was on my Facebook that I used to call on from years ago. He private messaged me about 2-3 years ago and he said, hey, what kind of probiotics are in Shakeology? Well, honestly, I didn't know. So I'm like, I'll find out. And I look at the back of the bag and I can't even say it, but it's Bacillus collagen. I'm not saying it right. It's one probiotic. And I messaged that back to him, not knowing, oh God, when am I going to get back? And he messaged me, and this is what he shared with me, and this is huge, guys. He said, I am so impressed that your company chose that probiotic. He said, the problem with probiotics is that there are no probiotics that are designed to get past the stomach acid without breaking down. So probiotics are encapsulated, right? They hit the stomach acid and they break apart because the stomach acid is so strong. So most probiotics never even get to the gut in the intestines to grow and do what they're supposed to do. There is literally one probiotic, natural probiotic, that designed by nature is strong enough and is encapsulated enough to make it past the stomach acid, get into the intestines, and actually grow a good flora. One on the entire planet of Earth. He goes, the only problem with this one probiotic is it's ridiculously expensive. That's the probiotic your company chose to use for Shakeology. I was pretty damn proud of that. To have a doctor say, wow, and it builds my confidence. And so I started reading about this probiotic, and sure enough, it's all over the internet. This is like the gold standard of probiotic, and why so many people, so many of your customers get frustrated because they're going to a grocery store and buying quote probiotics and they're not getting relief and results. So you think the digestive enzymes are cleaning this out, right? And now you're filling it with the right kind of probiotic into that intestinal tract to do what it's supposed to do. Okay? Everybody kind of got that visual? All right. So now your body's thriving, it's feeling good, and now it's taking in all these ingredients. So it's really important for you all to understand kind of the process of what happens inside our body to really rework that ecosystem so that we start feeling better, our customers feel better. And when you come up, when people give you objections like I'm bloated or this or that, you understand kind of what's going on inside so you can explain it to them. This is what's interesting when it comes to diseases. Every single disease, every disease starts with one thing, and it's inflammation. Inflammation is the number one bad guy in every single disease. You have inflammation, and it will spawn off and then manifest into cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, colitis. The word itis actually means inflammation, but literally every single disease starts with inflammation. And so many of us eat foods that cause inflammation. Stress and cortisol cause inflammation. So we're doing so many things to our body that cause inflammation, and we're walking around like ticking time bombs with little diseases popping out here and there. And what do? We take pills to get rid of the smoke. We don't fix the fire. So the inflammation's continuing to get worse and worse and worse, yet we're not actually reducing the inflammation. There are probably 20 superfoods in Shakeology that naturally reduce inflammation and make the inflammation better and better and better. That is why it's no coincidence when people are consistent with drinking Shakeology that their migraines tend to go away, their arthritis goes away. All these little wacky things that they just learned to live with and thought it was a part of the natural aging process start to resolve themselves, because that is the Shakeology now going through that digestive system and getting all the right types of foods and nutrients in there to help reduce inflammation throughout your whole entire body. The other thing that is so chronic for disease are cortisol levels and stress. And there can be acute stress, there's stress with daily work. Because once those cortisol levels go up, we tend to become more and more sick. The phytonutrients on that back of the bag, that really long, weird word, those are superfoods that reduce and help the body fight stress. So the back of the bag, this bag is scientifically designed through food to really help your body fight all these things that people have been doing to abuse it for many, many, many years. They don't have to understand all of that, but understanding why it's important that all these little things start feeling better as they're drinking Shakeology. It's not some freaking miracle. It's just good nutrition that the body can now take up. This is interesting. I learned from this book, Brain Maker. I'm kind of a health science geek. So do you know that there are more serotonin? You guys all know what serotonin is. It's the stuff in your brain, like if you're struggling with depression or post-traumatic, what is it after you have a baby? Postpartum. Serotonin are the receptors in your brain, your pleasure principle in your brain. You have more serotonin receptors in your gut than in your brain. So think about that for a second. If you get your gut healthy, you're going to stimulate more serotonin throughout your body to where now you're happier and feeling better because you actually have more serotonin receptors in your gut than you do in your brain. That is why when people start drinking Shakeology consistently, they may be able to reduce their dose of their antidepressant meds, their Zoloft or their Paxil or their Effexor or Celexa or any of those. It's not voodoo magic. It's literally the way the body works. And when you give it the right kind of nutrition that Darren and Isabel know what the heck they're doing, makes it so much better. And when you think this book here, I don't know if anybody has kids that are autistic, any neurological disorders, this book addressed through nutrition. It's fascinating. But anyway, that book's not about Shakeology, but when you know what's in Shakeology and then you pair it with what he's telling you to do, it's no wonder that people get so much relief. Okay. Now, one last thing with the internal ecosystem. Free radicals are components that cause and fight. Yes. His chapter on depression talks about that. There are more, there's these things that are called free radicals. Free radicals cause cancer. They attack our body. And the adaptogens and phytonutrients in Shakeology actually kill off free radicals. But most people are walking around with these free radicals like constantly attacking their body, and they're not arming themselves with the right kind of nutrition or digestive enzymes for those to actually work. And that is another brilliant thing with Shakeology, or a lot of these foods that are in Shakeology help kill off free radicals that cause disease and cause cancer. Okay? So it's fascinating when you understand the deeper level and deeper components of why it's so important to drink Shakeology. And when people complain about the taste to me, I like roll my eyes. I'm like, I don't know, that to me, even if it tasted like freaking dog crap, I'd close my nose and chug it because it's that good for you. Like, I think it tastes amazing, but truly when people are like, well, how's it taste? I'm like, who freaking cares? How do all those pills you're choking down every day taste? You know? Darren Oline says in Super Life, you know what? Tell me how chemotherapy is. How's that working for you? You know, why not take measures towards health and bettering your body than deal with the consequences of not? Because that's far more costly, far more expensive, and far much more of a hassle. And sometimes, guys, it's okay to have some of these tough conversations with your clients. Because you know what? We don't understand. We listen to mainstream TV and we don't understand because we're told what the media wants us to hear. Okay, moving on. Okay, vegan versus whey. Okay, I get this question a lot because the back, somebody's not on mute. The back of the regular formula, somebody's in a car, not on mute. Okay, the back of the regular formula, it's got all this nutrition stuff right here, right? The back of the vegan, it does not. So people ask me, they're like, well, are there no vitamins in the vegan? So here's the thing. There are synthetic vitamins in the regular formulation. And this is how you can tell what products have synthetic vitamins and which ones do not. So the vegan has no synthetic vitamins. I personally always try and promote the vegan because it's truly a whole, dried whole food with nothing synthetic in it. Now, if you are growing a garden, right, and you are growing a garden of carrots, and you pick up a handful of carrots and a handful of carrots, and you weigh them, and they weigh exactly the same, how much vitamin C do you know are in each of those handfuls? You really don't, right? So if you grind it up, how are you supposed to put on a bag how much that handful of carrots you just yanked out of the ground? It depends on the soil. It depends on, you know, some may have more than others depending on how it grew and sunlight and fertilizer and all of that. So if it's truly a whole food, you cannot say with 100% certainty to print on the back of a bag how much beta carotene or vitamin C a handful of whole food carrots has. That is why on the back of the vegan, it's not like that, because it's literally dried whole foods. So it's not listed because it may vary by certain percentages per bag, per batch. On the regular, let me see, where it's got the exact numbers, the only way to get exact numbers is to make it synthetic so that you can measure it in a certain amount every single time consistently to print on a bag. So when I talk about whole food nutrition, I typically will only share a picture of the vegan. Or if somebody says, I want true whole foods, or you're supposed to get your vitamins from true whole foods, I'm like, well then great, here you go. Here you go. But it's not because it doesn't have it in the bag, it's just can't be listed because there's a variance when you are really truly dealing with whole foods. You're not gonna eat a salad and have the exact same amount in each salad. Same thing with Shakeology, okay? Everybody got that? So you can understand that. It does have whole foods. Both of them have whole foods. The difference, why this is a premium line, this is the ultimate line, and this is not, is because they did use some of the synthetic ones to make an exact amount on the back. And those of you that have been around long enough, remember when these used to be two different prices. This one was $7 more than this. And that's why. Then they just raised the price and now they're the same instead of raising both. Okay. But don't think when people say, oh, well, there's no vitamins in it, or, you know, there's no vitamin count, or it's not real whole food, go straight to vegan. If that's truly important to them, go straight to the vegan. Okay, let's move on. Hang on, let me take some of this off so I can find my notes here. Okay, I have had people ask, well, Shakeology is not FDA approved. I'm gonna go over some objections here. Shakeology is not FDA approved. Neither are Fruit Loops. I mean, I don't know why people think something like this has to be FDA approved, but yet they will eat Fruit Loops and cookies and things like that. The FDA does not approve foods to eat. If they did, there would not be things like Monster and Red Bull on the market. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The FDA just kind of overlooks things, and I will share a little bit more on how the FDA approves drugs in a minute, because it's very important for you guys to know. One of the things that the FDA really does not pay attention to or warrant or police are on supplements, which is really scary, because I interviewed with a company for a nutraceutical company, so nutrition lines, vitamin companies, right? They kind of fall in between medicine and the food. They're like right in the middle. And it is amazing the amount of things that can be put in nutraceuticals and nutrition supplements that are not regulated. It's really scary, actually, which is why you see a lot of these crazy things at the grocery store counter that you can buy that are horrid for you and not, quote, FDA approved, because the FDA doesn't police nutritional supplements. It's what keeps GNC in business. If you saw some of the stuff that was in what they sold, you'd be mortified. Anyway, put that in perspective when someone asks you, well, it's not FDA approved, you know, kind of share the bigger picture there on the other things that aren't FDA approved. Then it becomes a moot point. Okay. Another one that I hear is there are no clinical trials or clinical studies saying that Shakeology, you know, does what it can do. There's no proof. It's not proven that it can do that. And that's absolutely true. But let me share with you from my pharma perspective what a clinical trial means from a technical standpoint. If I'm a drug rep, when I was a drug rep, I sold Paxil. I sold antidepressants. My company was GlaxoSmithKline. So if I go into a psychiatrist and I bring that psychiatrist a clinical study comparing Paxil with Celexa with Effexor or whatever, right? Mine's better than theirs because of X, Y, and Z. The very first thing that physician's going to look at is who paid for and published that study. Okay? And if it was my company, they're going to roll their eyes and throw it back at me. Because of course, my company is going to publish something that makes my own company look good. And they have the capability of manipulating the data and the statistics to make us look good. So a doctor would laugh in my face if I brought him anything that was sponsored, paid for, or published by my own company. He wants to see, the medical world wants to see clinical studies done by third parties with no relation or political affiliation with my company. Okay? That's how it works in the drug world. A lot of what you guys see on mainstream TV when they advertise all this stuff with these drugs is stuff that they've paid for themselves that makes them look good. The average consumer doesn't know that that's hogwash, right? Now, for Shakeology to have a clinical trial, the one that we do have was sponsored by us. But for us to have a clinical trial, and I have people that ask me this, why are there no clinical trials? It would, to be legitimate and actually be reputable in anybody that knows, it would have to be from another party. So like when you think of the American Cancer Society and they've got, you know, all these fundraisers to help treat cancer awareness and go towards cancer awareness and all these fundraisers that all these other organizations do to raise money for research, that's what that is. How many organizations are out there? Let's raise money to test Shakeology. I mean, they're not going to happen. You don't have grants at colleges at Duke University wanting to raise money and use college funds to look at Shakeology. They're going to look at other things. So the chances of there ever being a valid clinical trial on Shakeology is kind of a moot point. You almost just have to go with the flow of nutrition and what nutrition can do, because they're not studying what a carrot can do for your body. They're not studying what maca root can do and ashwagandha. They're not doing that either. They have to do it with medicine because it has to get approved. Okay. So I'm trying to create the bigger picture, the outside layer on some of these answers so that you guys are more informed and can answer when someone's like, well, there's no clinical study saying it can reduce my cholesterol. So I have to answer that one like 9 or 10 times a year. So that's one I wanted to give you guys perspective on. Okay. Now, let me share with you, and this doesn't really have to do with Shakeology, but I want to give you guys a perspective on how our government works. When I used to see some of these drugs that were approved, my mouth would drop, like on how poorly they were designed, yet I'm like, how did this drug ever get approved? Here is kind of the dirty underpinnings of our government, okay? Drugs, for the most part, what weighs heavily on them getting approved are the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. lobbying the FDA. Yes, horrific. The companies with the deepest pockets, Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, tend to get a lot of their drugs approved more quickly than smaller pharmaceutical companies. And drug companies are on a race to get their drug approved because once they officially get the patent, that patent goes off, I think 7 or 12 years, I don't remember. So they're like in a rush to get that thing to market. And even if it costs money to get it to market, okay? So just because something is FDA approved, so if they're like, well, Shakeology is not FDA approved, I'm gonna tell you what, guys, just because something's FDA approved does not at all mean it's a great product. It just means that there's someone's taking someone out to dinner or on a trip to Greece or something like that. And there's more money for our government in people being sick. You know that Monsanto, I don't know if you guys have heard of Monsanto and Pfizer are one and the same. Well, how does that even make sense? But it does if you really think about it. There's more money in people being sick and needing drugs than there are in people staying healthy. So they're not going to dump money into food, the food industry. That's all got to be private grassroots level from people like us. Here's the other thing I learned in my nutrition school. When you think of the diet plate, right? The government is never going to remove meat or dairy or soy from the food plate. Why is that? Anybody have an idea? Money, electoral votes. Do we really need dairy? No. Do we really need meat? No. They will never take it off the food plate because what do you think the Texas electoral votes, the state of Texas, who is the biggest meat industry in our country, would do? What about the soy and cornfields of the Midwest? What about the dairy states? They would totally piss off all of those states and lose those electoral votes. So no person is going to ever upset the whole food plate and say, you know what, we really don't need this. And it's up to us as coaches to empower ourselves and teach our customers. You don't have to have this and you don't have to have that. And soy isn't good. That's why they're promoting so much that soy is so great for you, but it's not when you actually look at the science. Our government does not want to piss anybody off who's going to affect their electoral votes. All right, moving on. And again, not all of this is stuff you're ever going to like sit and have a conversation about, but I really want to empower you guys so that when these topics do come up, you're not like, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm kind of giving you a background, like behind the scenes, what really goes on. Okay. Why doctors are not our nutrition experts. What time is it? Okay, we're doing okay on time. Why doctors are not our nutrition experts. Do you know, and I have this study on my website, Journal of American Medicine is the #1 medical journal that doctors look to. I still subscribe to it, I read it. But they came out, and I knew this, but now to have it in writing and something published like Journal of American Medicine, doctors go to school for about 12 years. Of that 12 years, they get less than 0.2% nutrition education. Yet, what this article says is that patients put the most weighting on what their doctor says about nutrition into their doctor's hands. So when someone says to me, I'm going to take this to my doctor and see what he says, I kind of roll my eyes and I'm like, doctors have no idea for the most part what half these superfoods are. They don't know about nutrition. And when I posted it on my timeline, the doctors on my team, they were like, that's absolutely right. We had so little training on actual nutrition. And the nutrition training they get typically comes from the government, which says you need meat, you need dairy, you need all of that. Okay, doctors are not the nutrition experts. So I would always just caution people when they tell me they're going to tell their doctor, I'm like, that's fine. But if your doctor doesn't know what some of those ingredients are, he's going to go and reach for a drug because he's going to go with what the FDA approves. And the FDA approves it. Why? Because okay. So you guys are starting to see kind of the whole underpinnings of how things work. Yes, there are tons of documentaries out there that will kind of go into a deeper rabbit hole on all this. Okay, anyway, so let's move on. Why doctors are not our nutrition experts. Okay. Why Shakeology is not certified organic, gluten-free, and kosher. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you guys it is organic, it is gluten-free, and it is kosher. It's just not certified. But here's the reason why, and usually once I explain it to a customer, then they're like, okay, that makes sense. How many products on the market out there have 70 different superfoods? Very few. I think we're probably the only one. If you're like, let's say maca root, you can get it certified because you have to pay extra. You got to pay the government extra to get that certification label. It's not an actual technical test they're doing. They're just saying, okay, I paid my money, I can put it on the label. The problem with Shakeology is they have to then pay for that label for all 70 ingredients to certify the one bag. And that's the downside of the fact that it has 70 ingredients. Shakeology would literally cost a small mortgage if they had to pay to certify all 70 of those ingredients to have that stamp on the bag. And then people complain about it being $4. They would never buy it. So explaining it to people like that tends to help them realize, okay, now I get it. Okay. So, all right. Same thing with gluten-free, same thing with kosher. And the thing with kosher is then they would have to have rabbis bless all 70 ingredients. Same kind of thing. All right. All right. What's with it's made in a facility with shellfish and nuts. Oh my God, am I going to have an allergic reaction? Okay. This is another thing from my pharma days. So what a lot of companies do that manufacture is they will rent space in huge manufacturing plants. Typically, they do not have just one building just for themselves. They rent space for different things. So what I learned in the pharmaceutical world, because sometimes some of our products had that same label, I'm like, well, what's with that? What does that mean? And my corporate office explained it to me like this. For liability reasons. So let's say it's a 10-story manufacturing plant, and the 3rd floor is where they make Shakeology, the 3rd and 4th floor, and the 7th floor is where they make Jiffy peanut butter, right? If there is a remote chance that somebody could have a peanut particle on their lab coat from the 7th floor and it cross-contaminate with someone in the elevator from the 3rd or 4th floor, because there is that remote chance, that has to be on the label. And that's why it says made in a facility with, not made in the same room with or made with. Okay, that's how it works, because a lot of these companies share big manufacturing spaces. So if it says in a facility, it's fine. And that's why when your people drink it and they think, oh God, I'm going to have some reaction because it was made in a facility with shellfish, and they don't, that's why. But for technical purposes, that has to be on the label if it's in the same facility. Got it? Okay. You guys feel so much smarter. What if it says may contain shellfish? If it says may contain shellfish and it doesn't say in a facility, I don't know. I think that's different. Okay. Now, this stuff has to do a little bit with marketing. I personally do not ever talk about the money back guarantee. I feel that coaches, because they don't know how to position Shakeology, they're not confident in Shakeology, they are using that as like, okay, and if you don't like it, you can just send it back. Because that's, in their mind, their way of building confidence, because they actually don't know how to build confidence in the product itself. But how much confidence would you all have if you're going into a marriage and your spouse wanted you to sign a prenuptial agreement? Right? You'd be like, WTF? You not think we're going to make it? That's the same doubt and belief you're putting in your product, I feel, when you promote the money back guarantee. Because why on earth would they ever want to freaking return it after I've shared all this amazing stuff with them? Right? They're not going to want to return it. They're going to get their husband on it and get their kids drinking it, which I'm going to get to later. They're not going to return it. I don't even mention it. It does not instill confidence, guys. It instills doubt. So don't bring it up. Now, where I've used it once in 4.5 years is I had a lady who wanted to drink it so badly. She kept drinking it and drinking it. She kept having a reaction. She was allergic to one of the 70 ingredients. Totally was so bummed out. So we did half a dose. Then we tried all these over the 30 days. Like, poor thing, she was trying so hard to make this work. And on like day 28, I said, you know what? I got nothing for you. I tell you what, send it back and you'll get all your money back. And she was like, what? But she earned the right to return that bag. And I look like a hero because at the end of her trying and us working together, that I threw that out there, and it was like I came in with the best customer service ever. But she earned the right to return that bag, and I worked with her throughout the month because she wanted to stay on the product. But I would not recommend saying, oh, and you'll get all your money back. Personally, that's just my own belief and what the kind of perception it creates about the product. Okay. Here's another thing I don't do, and I know a lot of you guys do this. Just don't take offense. It just doesn't work for me. I will never say, if you become a coach and sell 3, you'll get your own Shakeology paid for. Because you know what? This is how I don't ever position Shakeology as from day one, as I tell them how to work it into their budget from day one, so that they're not paying extra in groceries. I'm telling them, what's your grocery budget? You're going to deduct $130 a month from your grocery budget. What are you spending on vitamins? Because you're not going to spend that anymore. You're replacing a meal. You spend an average of $3 to $7 every time you make your lunch. Now you're going to replace it with this. So now you're not adding a meal to your grocery budget. You are replacing it. And you're probably going to get sick less, which I can't promise you, but most likely you are. So you're going to save on other things that you weren't even counting on. So you're going to be ahead when you start drinking Shakeology every single day. So now they know how to fit it into their budget. It's not extra. Now they're coming out ahead financially. So why would I say, if you sell 3 bags, it'll pay for your Shakeology, as if it's an extra in their day? No, it's part of it and part of the whole package that they're already doing. Here's the other thing. What happens if you position it like that? Someone's not on mute. What happens when they only sell 1 bag? That
you doing, Brayden?
Someone's not on mute. I'm gonna get grouchy. What happens if they only sell 1 bag that month? What are they going to do with their Shakeology? Because now you set the stage that it's an extra. Oh, I don't need it. I'm not going to drink it because that's that extra thing in my budget, not part of my budget. I want my coaches, if they become a coach, I want them to already have figured out how they're budgeting it in and working it into their lifestyle, to where when they make that first sale, they're already in the green. They're ahead of the game because they've already figured out how to put it in their budget. They're not catching up to pay for something. They've already figured that out. So I personally, and those of you that are on my team, you know, I've never, ever, ever once said, sell 3 and you'll pay for your Shakeology, because you guys already know how to pay for it, right? So that's personally something I don't say. All right. Let's talk about comparisons on social media. And I know a lot of you have done this, so don't take offense. But if you are going shopping for a full-size car with all the bells and whistles, and you walk into my car dealership and I keep comparing the car to a motorcycle, right? I'm like, but let me show you this motorcycle. But let me show you this motorcycle. You're going to be like, I don't freaking want the motorcycle. I want a car. I'm in the market for a car. I'm looking for something that delivers and drives and gives me the needs of a car, right? That is the same thing we're doing when we compare Shakeology to something like McDonald's. I see those comparisons and I'm like, that's like comparing a motorcycle to a full-size car. If I know I need to be healthy, I'm not getting a McDonald's Big Mac and fries. If I'm on a diet and trying to lose weight, I know that's not what I'm doing. So why not compare apples to apples? Compare Shakeology to a drive-through salad at Chick-fil-A, because that's what your people are doing in your challenge groups. Compare it to the amount of vitamins they might be taking. Compare it to other healthy meals at restaurants. Compare apples to apples. Because comparing Shakeology to a greasy fast food meal, people that are willing to eat a greasy fast food meal aren't even going to wrap their brain around Shakeology. They could care less. And people that are looking to be healthy and get nutrients just want to know more cost-effective ways to do so. And so they're eating salads and they're going through and getting quinoa bowls, and that's what they're doing. So compare it to something in the health realm, because to me, it's an obvious thing that they're not anything to do with one another. They're two totally different mindsets of people from a marketing standpoint. Okay. All right. Why I go through 5 bags a month. When I talk to my customers about Shakeology, I want them to fully understand why it's important that they drink it. And you guys know from my last video, I do not talk about it being a weight loss shake. This is a nutritional shake, but the beauty behind it is that is your core. You build everything else around it. So if grandma needs, or let's say not, you could use grandma too, but if your kids or grandma need to gain weight, then make that a shake, a 600 to 700 calorie shake by adding clean nutrients to it, instead of drinking Ensure with chemicals, right? If you need to lose weight, keep it about a 250 calorie shake so that it is equivalent to a meal. If you're just wanting to chug it as a vitamin, just mix it with water and chug it. Okay? You have that flexibility, and it gives you leverage now to talk about other family members drinking it. And who in your family could use all these health benefits? To me, my kids get it first. Like, my son drinks it every single morning because, you know what? At the end of the day, he's a kid. He likes chicken nuggets. He likes pizza. He likes French fries. And I'm not going to be that neurotic mom that's like, no, you need to eat quinoa, son. Like, I'm a normal mom. But at least I know if he's drinking his Shakeology, he's not been sick in 2 years. His brain cells are freaking functioning amazing. His body's healing itself. His digestive system's getting everything it needs. Why would I deny that to my kids? Their bodies are still developing and need it more than anything. My spouse, he's a train wreck. No, not mine personally, but you know, a lot of these women's spouses are train wrecks. Actually, Neil was a train wreck when I met him. He skipped breakfast, skipped lunch, ate huge amounts of pizza for dinner, and drank Monster Energy drinks all day long. Yeah, and I told him, you are going to have a freaking kidney stone. No, I'm not. 2 years later, guess what? He hasn't had one since. He was a train wreck. But talking to people, when you show the value of the health benefits on why this freaking shake right here is the #1 thing you need to be putting in your body every day. It's your insurance that at least your body's getting something it needs that's useful. And then even if the rest of the day is not perfect, that's okay, because you're getting this. So who in your family doesn't need it? So now, instead of that person getting backed up, now they're needing 2 bags. Now their kids are needing it. Now everybody's talking about it and feeling great. That's why we go through 5 bags a month. All right. Got all that. Okay. That's why when people say, can I give it to my kids? I'm like, oh my God, like I would shove it in powder form down my kids if I had to. All right. Soy is a very cheap filler. Okay. I have a really good article on my website about it, but basically food companies use soy because it creates the perception that people are getting a lot of volume of something for a really cheap price. It's used as a filler, a very dirty, nasty GMO filler. Soy affects your hormones. It screws with your thyroid. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And so most products will have soy in it. And so when you're comparing Shakeology to other products, you can't even, because the minute I turn the thing around and I see that it has soy, artificial sweeteners like Splenda or Equal or any of those, or artificial flavors, that just told me everything I need to know about the integrity of the company that's promoting that health product. So it's not a rocket science to compare Shakeology to other things. You look for those few ingredients and then it's a done deal. You can go to my YouTube and I talk about what each of those ingredients can do to your body. It's the video is called How to Find a Good Health Shake. But that's the easiest way to make comparisons, guys, because I'm going to tell you every other shake on the market has that crap in it. I'm just reading some of the notes. Okay. All right. So I don't want to get too into what shake should not have in it because I have good videos and I think I touched on that in my other one too. All right. I did that, moving right along. Okay. Let's talk about the ultimate reset. Now, Kelly, as you guys can probably tell, I believe in Shakeology, right? To me, the ultimate reset is like the freaking grand poobah of everything that we have. Shakeology is great, but the reset is like the freaking Mac Daddy. Okay, let me kind of share. So you understand that Shakeology is kind of like your daily fuel. It's like getting that high octane gas you're putting in your body every single day, right? The reset is like getting your freaking engine cleaned once or twice a year, like the complete overhaul. Let me share with you from a scientific standpoint about disease, okay? Chemicals that we breathe in, toxins that are in pesticides and foods and the air and they're wherever. I mean, we can't avoid them. We don't see them, but they're there. Those get embedded. And I love when people are like, why isn't there a cure for cancer? We know there's a cure. And I'm like, why aren't we talking about prevention? Because there is prevention and very few people actually utilize it. What happens with these chemicals is they get embedded in our body because they're not natural, just like synthetic vitamins. They're not necessarily broken down. They kind of get embedded in there. And you know where they get embedded for the most part? In your fat cells. So you've got these fat cells that get bigger and they shrink depending on where we are in our life, right? But what's inside of them still? Toxins and chemicals. And what happens is then cells mutate. And we have cells that mutate in our body all the time. All the time. What happens is when our body doesn't fight, our immune system's not strong, because we're not getting those adaptogens in. When our immune system is not strong and it's not fighting those free radicals, they mutate faster and faster. Now we have a tumor. Okay, that's kind of how cancer works. Chemicals and toxins are embedded in these fat cells. So it does not matter if you're fat or you're skinny. It's about the chemicals that are inside your fat cells that have been embedded in there. You didn't put them there. They just ended up there. And we all have them. What the ultimate reset does is it strips those toxins out of the cells and excretes them, which is why in the first few days, especially for me, I don't know if you guys ever saw the video. It's pretty horrific. I know Rob did. You don't feel good because that is your body detoxing off of all this crap. And you take all those supplements or people are like, ooh, the green stuff's so green. And who cares? Just drink it. It's good for you. And it's stripping all that crap out of your muscle fibers, out of your cells and getting rid of it. And you're excreting it. And yes, you do feel achy. You feel like you have the flu. You don't feel great. Too bad. It's so good for your body. Your pH system, right? So fish tanks, if any of you guys have fish tanks, you've got a pH. You've got alkaline and acidic. In foods, we eat a lot of foods that are very acidic. And not all acidic foods are bad, but we tend to eat very acidic foods as a culture. Processed foods are very acidic. You can Google acidic foods, not acidic foods. We tend to eat a lot of acidic foods. Cancer thrives in an acidic environment and grows in an acidic environment. So it's so important that we're pulling our body to a more alkaline state by eating greens, by eating wheatgrass, things that are really strong and alkaline to pull our body back. That's what that green shot is that everybody goes, oh, it's so gross. That is helping balance the pH in your body, because cancer thrives in a highly acidic environment. Why people would not do the reset at least twice a year is beyond me. And it's not about weight loss. Like people are like, how much weight am I lose? How much weight am I lose? It's about getting that crap out of your body. Katie Ursa did the reset with me because she wanted to get rid of all the residual chemotherapy out of her body. It will strip, I can't say all of it, but it'll get what it can out. Why wouldn't you do that for yourself? It's a complete overhaul for your body. And then every day you keep drinking your Shakeology. You don't have to be the most perfectly healthy person out there, but damn, we've got some products, guys, that are badass. And people don't understand them. They think, oh, it's 3 weeks. I complain about the cooking. It. Who cares? Ever try a macrobiotic diet because you've got cancer? Like, embrace being healthy and doing it twice a year, and then drinking your Shakeology every single day to help give your body at least what it can use going forward, even if you're not perfect. Okay. I want to tell you a success story about the Ultimate Reset. I have a coach on my team named Shelly Shane, and she had, I can't remember, what's it called? Like the ringing in your ears that doesn't stop. Tinnitus or something like that. Anyway, she lost 120 pounds over a few years, and she had an asthma attack that caused this ringing in her ears starting in January. This is a couple years ago. And a lot of people, guys, literally will try and commit suicide if they cannot get rid of it, because it is so annoying when you think when you're trying to sleep, there's that ringing, like when you're on the phone and you're trying to, that ringing doesn't go away. It drives people crazy. She went to 4 or 5 ENT doctors, and no one could figure out why she had this ringing in her ear. They don't know what caused it. They didn't know how to get rid of it. They're kind of just like, I guess you're going to have to just live with it. Well, she had about 25 pounds left to lose on this 140-pound journey where she lost weight. She reached out to me to do the reset because I had just finished doing it, was posting about it. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. It's, I was kind of telling her what it does and what to expect. So she bought it. She calls me on day 4 sobbing, because for 6 months, this woman had this ringing in her ears. Nobody knew what to do, went to so many doctors. And guess what happened on day 4 of the reset? Went away. I have so many success stories about the Ultimate Reset where it helps people's health improve tremendously in ways that it could not have done before. You guys, give your body the opportunity to heal itself, and it will. We have brilliantly designed bodies. The problem is we don't ever give it the chance to heal itself because we keep throwing on more processed food. When it's screaming out to us in symptoms of stress and fatigue and upset stomach, we give it medication on top of it. So we don't ever give our bodies the actual nutrients and foods and things it needs to heal, to make us more balanced between our alkaline and our acidic state. We're not putting foods in our body that help it fight disease. And by doing the Ultimate Reset and Shakeology, I can in no way say it will guarantee you're going to have great health, but you'll have definitely better and improved health. Why would you not do that for yourself? Okay. So I'm doing the Ultimate Reset on April 4th. I would welcome all of you guys to do it with me. We can start our own group together. We can do it for the 3 weeks. I can give you a ton of tips. I've done it 5 or 6 times in my career with Beachbody. I absolutely love it. My husband does it with me. It is absolutely brilliant. So if you have ever been thinking about doing it, I invite you guys to do it with me, and we'll all do it together starting on April 4th. Now, the one last thing I want to share with you guys is, I got to do a screen share. Screen share. I'm going to give you guys this link. This is from my website. My team has this. This is everything about Shakeology, and I'm going to show you what's here. This very first video is what I use to give to customers And it talks about the ingredients. It talks about the free radicals. It's done like a cute little 6 or 7 minute music video. It's beady, it's fun. That's what I use as my #1 sharing tool for customers. And don't worry, you guys will get this main link. This main link will include all these other links, okay? Within this main link, the first few things here are training. This one, I tell you, there's coaches on my team that sell Shakeology way better than I do. Kim Mitchell, Patty Huss, I know you guys are on this call. I have a video I made of, I think it's like 12 or 13 minutes long, of their best practices and sharing how they sell it. And that is important because not all of you guys are going to speak and talk like me. Not all of you guys have the same background as me, nor do my coaches. Listen to how they do it. They're brilliant. Okay. What the back of the bag really means. I go over phytonutrients, adaptogens, what they are on a more detailed level than I did on this call. Then I have a bunch of stuff on disease states, hashing out the facts on Hashimoto's, protein shakes versus Shakeology. Are you protein deficient? Comparisons with Lean Shake, GNC Lean Shake, vitamins, Avocare, the performance line. Depression and why Shakeology can help in depression with all my testimonials. What if you need to gain weight? How you use Shakeology there instead of Ensure or Pediasure. Colitis, migraines, Weight Watchers. Is there lead in Shakeology? The sugar. Why is there so much sugar in Shakeology? All of these, hypothyroidism, how to improve the taste, drinking it for senior citizens, kids. It's made in a facility with gluten, nut, shellfish. What if I have allergies? Body by Bye, isogenics, anti-aging and drinking Shakeology and what it does for anti-aging, why your doctor's not your nutrition expert. There's the JAMA article. Avocare, Plexus, is Shakeology a whole food? Darren only did a call for my team. I know he did a call for a lot of teams, but we definitely had more elevated questions than the average team. These are his answers. Brilliant video. There you go. This is literally my secret vault of everything you guys would ever want to know at all. And so if you have customers, there you go, I just posted it. I posted it in the group too. But if you have customers and you're like, oh, I know there's an answer for that Shay talked about on the call, that is your one-stop link for everything. It's in there. Okay, here's my other tip before we end the call. My website, shaystanford.com, super easy. This little search tool right here, you can literally type in IBS. I wonder if Shakeology's all right with IBS, right? Type in a term, kind of like you would use for the Beachbody FAQ, but the difference with my website is I obviously can expand the boundaries a little bit more. IBS. The thing with the probiotic I was talking about, that Shakeology has that certain kind of probiotic, that's in here. Okay, so you can use, here's the probiotic one. You can use my website as your search tool for different disease states, objections, things like that. This is where I talk about the probiotic right here. Everything I just said. So everything I've covered on this call, I literally do have backed up on my website that you guys can use as references and sharing tools. How do I stop sharing? Okay, so that officially ends the call. If you guys have anything else you want to ask, I'd be more than happy. You guys feel a lot smarter now. You can like totally take on the network in the world now. No one's going to ever ask you something that you're going to be like, I don't know. My goal here is to really empower you guys and give you the bigger picture. Strengthen your belief in this product. I tell you guys, we're bulletproof. If I had to sell Avocare or something like that, I'd be embarrassed because I know people can shoot holes in it and I would be like, yeah, right. We don't have any of that. This product is bulletproof. Darren and Isabel have the highest of standards. Carl, where they get these ingredients from, what they go through to have these ingredients and get them to us. They literally dry out every single food, a superfood, a different way to keep the integrity. You know that there is, like, those of you that have been around a while, when we launched Tropical, it was delayed 5 months before we launched it. You know why? Because they could not get the goji berries to dry, or was it the goji berries or maca root? Doesn't matter. There's literally a 5%, and I have this in a Shakeology, a whole food article. When they dry these, if they burn them, let's say they put them in the oven to dry it out and dehydrate it. Well, when you cook food or heat food, it loses the enzymes that make it good for you, right? But if you don't cook it enough, it's going to rot in the bag and go rancid. There's literally a 5-degree variance between getting these superfoods per superfood exactly right to where they can package it in a bag and it not rot, but yet it still have the nutritional integrity to do what it's supposed to do in your body. It's fascinating. They don't just like lob it all in a factory and just mix it together and see what happens. They delayed the launch of Tropical back in February of 2013 because they could not get one of the ingredients right to stay in the bag and not rot. Until they figured it out, they launched it. So it's fascinating, the integrity. I really want you guys to just believe in the product. Have confidence in it. The more you understand and the more you know, the more you're going to feel like a total Shakeology badass and no one's going to be able to touch you. And I promise you, 5 years ago, I didn't know any of this. This is all stuff I've just learned along the way that I'm teaching you. Some of it I knew with obviously my pharma background to answer some of these questions that people ask that kind of cross lines, but that's it. So, all right, I am going to close the call. If any of you guys have questions, I can address them. But those of you that got to run, that's all I actually have on my notes. Okay. Let's see. I'm reading the things. Complete kit. Yes, you definitely want the complete kit. What I would recommend, guys, for the reset is it's a lot easier if you have someone local do it with you, or even your spouse. But I say local because you can kind of share in the food buying, you can share in the responsibilities, the food prep, stuff like that. You can kind of split the duty. It is a lot of cooking. You won't work out for those 3 weeks, but you'll get your workout in the kitchen. For sure. This is interesting. If people, let me share this objection with you so you guys have a good answer. You know, some people will freak out if they can't work out for 3 weeks. When they did some trials with the Ultimate Reset, the test groups, not the coach test groups, but the ones prior, they actually used an arm in their trials of professional athletes. And they got their baseline prior to starting the Ultimate Reset on how much weight they could lift and when they would fatigue and all of that. And they jotted it down. They did the reset for the 3 weeks. And then there was a week where they started adding foods back in. So 4 weeks later, they sent them through the same tests. And they were actually, which surprised them, stronger after the reset. Because they thought, well, they haven't worked out in 4 weeks. They're going to be weaker, especially because they're professional athletes and they're used to that kind of intensity. They were stronger. Why do you think that is? Because their body wasn't fighting against all the things that were inside of it, holding it back. Once it was cleansed, it was able to become so much more of an efficient machine, and they were stronger. But that really surprised me. So if you've got people that are like, I cannot not work out for that long, I'll get so weak and da-da-da-da-da, you can share that with them. It's fascinating. All right. So I always start with, because actually when I started, I was unemployed. We were actually on Medicaid. And obviously it's not covered on Medicaid, but I realized I was going to be spending the average, and this is where I came up with this because it's what was the aha moment for me, but the average meal, if you're eating healthy, is between $3 and $7. This is going to be a meal, but you're going to be spending that $3 to $7 on something anyway. The only difference is you're paying for an entire month. So you don't typically go to the grocery store and buy an entire month's worth of food. You buy it for every 3 or 4 days. So figure out what meal, maybe it's going to be lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever, but whatever meal you're replacing, you're not now buying those ingredients for the entire month, because now you're going to do your Shakeology. So it's basically just, now you're swapping a meal for your Shakeology because it's on the low end of what they would spend on average for their food anyway. Plus, it's going to have all the vitamins and probiotics in it that they need. That's typically how I position it, because no matter what, they have to eat. So instead of eating that, you're going to eat this. That's how I typically budget it in. So, you know, a lot of these people that are on a budget, literally they could eat what is it, $4.30 if they're paying retail times 3. Not that I would promote 3 a day. They could eat an entire 3 meals and get all their nutrients for $13 a day. That's pretty cheap if they drink 3 shakes a day, if you put it in that perspective. All right, guys, have a great Saturday. Now go out and talk to people about the reset and Shakeology. Have a confident posture. Feel good about this product. Believe in this product. I tell you what, guys, you all on this call are more empowered than anybody else in the network. So high expectations from you guys now. I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Thanks for being in the group.